The general trend with video games is that they get better looking and more technically impressive as technology and hardware improves. There are some developers though who prefer the exact opposite, demaking modern games so that we can see what they'd look like as retro games running on ancient hardware, often with incredible results. See for yourself with these 7 demakes to blow the minds of modern and retro gamers alike. Enjoy folks, and subscribe for more. Bloodborne, the grim gothic Victorian masterpiece by Dark Souls developer From Software, came out in 2015 for the PS4. You may well remember, it looked like this. Which is to say dark, moody, atmospheric, and beautiful in a way that still holds up today. But what if Bloodborne had been released much earlier, say for example during the PlayStation 1 era? What would it look like then? That's the question asked by Bloodborne PSX, a Bloodborne demake by Unreal Engine 4 tech artist and engineer Lilith Walther, which reimagines the From Software classic as a PS1 action game complete with scan lines, blocky graphics, and MIDI music. Despite looking considerably less technically advanced, Bloodborne PSX is an incredibly faithful recreation of the original game, as you can see from this comparison of both games' opening cutscenes. The game is downloadable and fully playable from itch.io, linked in the description, and while it doesn't include the full game, it does include all of Yharnam, the game's first area, and it lets you fight both the Cleric Beast and Father Gascoigne, one of the harder bosses in Bloodborne on account of his ability to transform into a werewolf, still just as terrifying in blocky PS1 vision. As if that wasn't enough, Walther has also been working on Bloodborne Kart, a kart racing game featuring all of your, let's say, favourite characters from this blood-soaked nightmare game. Look out, Mario! No, seriously, look out. Resident Evil 4, originally released in 2005, was remade this year, updating the 18-year-old classic with high-end modern visuals, making it look superb.
Some entertainment for you!
Developer Doomero isn't interested in that, however, and is much keener on demaking Resident Evil 4, turning it into a side-scrolling shooter that plays a lot more like Metal Slug than Resident Evil. This demake was created in GZ Doom, an engine and modding tool that's usually used for making Doom mods. Here it's been used to rob Leon of his third dimension, but in exchange it answers the age-old question: what would Resident Evil 4 have looked like as a mid-90s PC side-scrolling shooter? Pretty great, it turns out. It is a bit weird to not see any jumping in this kind of game, but this is Leon Kennedy we're talking about. He doesn't jump unless it's out of second-story windows.
I'll let myself out.
Another From Software demake, this one throws it even further back by taking 2022's superlative action RPG Elden Ring and reimagining it as an 8-bit game for the original Nintendo Game Boy. Available to play on itch.io, this game offers a miniature green-tinged version of the Lands Between, or at least the Precipice of Anticipation, Northern Limgrave, and Stormvale Castle, presented in a Zelda-inspired top-down fashion. Even though it's much more basic, you can still expect all your favourite Elden Ring activities: hitting people with swords, rolling, iconic bosses, and of course, dying repeatedly. The true Elden Ring experience. Where something like the Elden Ring Game Boy demake is a little tongue-in-cheek, Soundless Mountain 2, a NES-style demake of the opening sections of Silent Hill 2, is a straight-down-the-line, serious experiment in what a true survival horror game would be like if the genre had arrived just a few years earlier. Despite being blocky pixel art and chiptune sounds, Soundless Mountain 2 does a great job of taking the eerie, dreamlike atmosphere of the original Silent Hill 2, seen here, and remaking it 80s style as James Sunderland makes his way into town, meets mysterious characters, discovers a gruesome trail of blood, and then batters a zombie to death with a plank of wood. Even though the graphics are much simpler, there's something about the combination of undeniably cute 8-bit sprites and the absolutely terrifying sound design of Silent Hill 2 that makes it almost more unsettling. Soundless Mountain 2 even has a chiptune recreation of Silent Hill 2's soundtrack, featuring contributions from Minecraft composer Daniel C418 Rosenfeld, which almost makes up for the fact that the only appearance from Pyramid Head is in the end credits. Almost. The current resurgence of things that were popular in the 1990s might have resurrected some regrettable fashions, but it also gave us Dusk, a loving homage to old-school first-person shooters from circa the late 90s. So it's not all bad. But while Dusk is already a throwback to an earlier era, it apparently wasn't enough of a throwback for Dusk creator David Szymanski, because he also created Dusk 82, an early 80s throwback demake of the game that pays homage to early puzzle games like Chip's Challenge and Sokoban. Fans of Dusk will recognise things like shotguns, familiar enemies, and of course, explosions, but the gameplay is now top-down and turn-based, requiring strategic block pushing while dodging enemy projectiles and blasting back when things line up properly. The game also comes with a level editor so that players can create their own fiendish puzzles and then swap them with friends. Dusk 82 was originally announced by Szymanski on April the 1st, so everyone naturally assumed it was a joke, but it's very real and available now on Steam if folks fancy reliving the early days of video games with Dusk's trademark culty flair. And don't worry, the soap is still in it. When you hear the name Limbo 64, you might be imagining a demake of popular spooky puzzler Limbo for the Nintendo 64. And although that sounds cool, you're off by about 14 years, because the 64 in the title refers to the Commodore 64, one of the oldest games consoles there is. Limbo is a sparse, minimalist game at the best of times, but this demake throws it all the way back to the early 80s using just 4 colours: black, white, and 2 shades in between. Developer Soren Troutner-Madsen is actually a programmer at Limbo developer Playdead, and while he has the studio's blessing to work on the demake, he has until recently been working on Playdead's latest game Cocoon, which has slowed development of Limbo 64. That said, the Limbo demake does an incredible job of capturing the vibe, tone, and, yes, the horror of Limbo in something that you could have played when Reagan was president. Beats the hell out of Boulder Dash, if you ask me. If you're a fan of Bayonetta but find all the deep and rewarding combat, fun voice acting, and 3 whole dimensions a little too much to handle, then maybe consider 8-Bit Bayonetta, the inaccurately named Bayonetta demake from Bayo developer Platinum Games, that turns the witchy action game into a 16-bit Ghosts and Goblins inspired shooter. The gameplay is simple. You stand in place and have to shoot hordes of Bayonetta enemies reimagined in pixel art style as they dash across the screen towards you. But it is bizarrely compelling trying to get a high score, and the chiptune recreations of Bayonetta's soundtrack are worth the price of admission on their own. Sadly, 8-Bit Bayonetta has now been delisted and is no longer playable, for reasons that aren't clear. Perhaps Platinum were worried people would mistake this for Bayonetta 3, which seems unlikely, but you never know. So those were 7 games that received a serious downgrade and ended up awesome in the process. Got another favourite demake we missed? Let us know in the comments, and be sure to like and hit that subscribe button to get more videos like this from us here at Outside Xbox. Thanks for watching.